Now it's time for the Robb Johnson Sports Show, presented by the Legacy Maker Sports Network. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Robb Johnson Sports Show. Again, welcome to the Robb Johnson Sports Show here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network. I'm your host, Robb Johnson. We're not going to be here too long tonight, but let's get into the sports. As I bring you into my world, I bring you into the sports world of Robb Johnson here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Legacy Maker Sports Network. Again, I'm Robb Johnson. Adrian Griffin, the head coach, with some breaking news out of the NBA. Not too breaking news that happened hours ago. Adrian Griffin, the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, they've won 6 out of the last 10. They are 30-13 on the season. He is now out as the coach, as the Milwaukee Bucks head coach. There's speculation on Doc Rivers, Mark Jackson, all types of different coaches about who will come into play for the Milwaukee Bucks. They're second in the East to the Boston Celtics. They won their game last night against the Detroit Pistons. At times, the Pistons were winning the game, standing there with the Milwaukee Bucks. That's kind of unacceptable when you have a great team and you are the Milwaukee Bucks, and you know that you are one of the most legitimate teams in the National Basketball Association. And and I look at this in the sense of in the offseason. When I look at Damian Lillard and I look at them trading him for Drew Holiday, you had to know that there would be some type of fall off, especially when it came to defense. Adrian Griffin could only do so much for this basketball team because of the fact that they are not a great defensive team like they were. They're not, and they're not going to be, because quite frankly, when you have a player like Damian Lillard, Dame Dollar as they call him, he's not the same defender as a Drew Holiday. So that's just not going to happen, and that's not what the Bucks should have expected. Now, you have a coach who is 30-13, second in the East. They really haven't been able to gel. They're really just getting people back from injury, and you make this move that makes me question a lot of things with the Milwaukee Bucks. You look at Damian Lillard. You look at his history. He's gotten coaches fired before. And I'm not saying that Damian Lillard is the reason that Adrian Griffin was fired. What I'm saying is that there has been patterns. We have seen this with Damian Lillard. We see that he wanted to go to Miami. We can see that he's not all the way happy about being in Milwaukee. Giannis is happy to be in Miami. Giannis wants to be, in Milwaukee. Giannis wants to be in Miami. Now, I keep saying Miami. I'll get to Miami in a second because they're on my mind today because they made a huge trade. But he wants to be in Milwaukee. You look at the Terry Rozier trade. He's going to Miami. They traded him for Kyle Lowry and a first-round pick. I believe it's in 2 years. That's a huge pickup for Miami. As long as you have Jimmy Butler, as long as you have Eric Spoelstra, now you add Terry Rozier, who a lot of Boston fans who are very upset that happened, you have something. So, that's that. So we'll definitely see what happens in Milwaukee. Let's get to the quick news of last night. And by the way, if you're wanting me to talk some wrestling, I will have the After Royal Rumble show Saturday night after the Royal Rumble. Go back and watch the preview me and Darrell did last night. For me, when I look at last night, you look at Karl Anthony Towns. He scored 62, but they lost the basketball game against the Charlotte Hornets. All right? And then the Hornets winning that game, but then they trade Rozier the next day, which it's the Hornets, man. I mean, what else can you say? And then you look at Joel Embiid. Embiid had 70 points, and I believe it was, 17, 18 rebounds. When you look at what Joel Embiid did last night, and you look at Victor Wembanyama, who scored over 30 points, this is still the future of the league with Wembanyama. But Joel Embiid had a great game. I watched towards the end of it. I've seen some parts of it. He was shooting. He was making all the passes. They were trying to get Joel Embiid that 70 points. This is my biggest question, folks, and I don't want to rain on the parade. I do not want to rain on the parade of Joel Embiid. But this is what I will say. It's great that he's doing this in the regular season. It's great that he's putting all this effort into this in the regular season. I have to see it from Joel Embiid in the postseason. I'm not saying that Joel Embiid, yeah, it is crazy, Darrell. I'm not saying that Joel Embiid is not a great player. I'm not saying that you shouldn't go for it in the regular season because you got to play well in the regular season to get to the postseason. But we've seen Philadelphia not be able to get to that conference finals like they want. We've seen Philadelphia not be able to get to the pinnacle. So this is all I'm saying. If you're Philadelphia, if you're Joel Embiid, yes, go for these records. Yes, do these things in the regular season. Get yourself your MVPs, but be ready for the postseason because sooner or later, non-postseason success is going to get old with the fans. It's going to get old with the organization, and you're going to want to go somewhere else. They're going to get mad at you. They're not going to respect you because you want to go win a championship. But at that point, you're like, look, I've done everything for you guys. I've done everything for this franchise, and I'm still not winning championships. The ultimate is championships. And I'm such a big proponent of the regular season. The problem, folks, is that in this new generation and this new world of sports, it's all about the championship. So for me, I'm just looking at it in the sense of if you're Joel Embiid, make sure that you show up in the playoffs, as I know you can, get to a championship, and just continue to play hard as you can. Now, we're going to get to a quick Monday Night Raw. We're not going to talk too much about Raw. We will start having Raw after reviews on Monday nights, especially if I don't have any other obligations going on. So, Monday Night Raw, we saw a few different things. First of all, my question for WWE is, why in the world would you not have Damian Priest cash in on Seth Rollins while he's out there? He tells you he has a torn meniscus. Meniscus. He has the MCL tear. Why not go out there, do something quick, win the title, and go from there? This just tells me that Seth Rollins will probably defend the title, or they can wait to Elimination Chamber. We'll see. Another quick segment. I'm not going to go too far into the wrestling today, but we saw Cody. We saw CM Punk. Good little segment there. They did a good job. I can't really tell a winner. I'd say 50-50 on both. Both did their thing. Overall, just a great night of wrestling on Monday Night Raw, so I definitely will give Raw a lot of credit. Now, let's go to the main topic of the day as we talk about this weekend's NFL festivities. Of course, let me just see. We go back here. Let's go back to Saturday. On Saturday, we had the Ravens and the Texans. Let's go through the numbers here. C.J. Stroud, 19 of 33, 175, no touchdowns, no interceptions. No receiver for the Texans went over 100 yards. Now let's go to the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson, 16 of 22, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. No receivers for the Ravens go over 100 yards. However, Lamar Jackson rushes for 100 yards. This was a domination. And I'm going to tell you something, folks. What the Ravens did to this Texans team, in my opinion, has been very hot. They've been playing good football all year. The first game they played Baltimore, they only scored 9 points, being the Texans. The score was 25-9. This was more thoroughly of a beating. Now, the game was tied 10-10 in the first quarter. The first half, and I get that going into the second half. The problem is that when you have a Ravens team who is this good defensively, when you have Patrick Queen at linebacker, when you have Roquan Smith, who the Bears gave up on. Now, I believe the Bears will get something good in the draft, plus you get Montez Sweat so they can make up for that. But you have those 2 linebackers. You have that defense. You have that secondary. Marlon Humphrey didn't even play. A lot of people miss that. Marlon Humphrey didn't even play in this game because of injury. And you still dominate this team. To me, that is impressive. The Baltimore Ravens move on to the AFC Championship game. Going to the Green Bay Packers and the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers win this game 24-21. Now, if you really watched this game, you analyzed and looked at everything that happened. Yes, Jordan Love had 2 interceptions. Yes, he passed for 194. However, you look at the 49ers. You look at Brock Purdy. 23 of 39, 252, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Brock Purdy should have had at least 2 or 3 interceptions in this game. The 49ers are very lucky that they did not lose this game. The 49ers are very lucky that the Packers kind of wilted under pressure. However, you look at Christian McCaffrey, 17 carries, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. Those carries have got to go up for Christian McCaffrey. There's no reason that Brock Purdy should have 39 throws and Christian McCaffrey should only have 17 rushes. Now, I understand he caught the ball 7 times, but he needs to have more. He needs to have more than 24 touches for the San Francisco 49ers to get to the championship. And this is one reason I say that is because this. On Sunday, the Detroit Lions beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 31-23. Baker Mayfield, 349 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. Jared Goff, 287, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Gibbs and Montgomery combined for over 100 yards. Listen, folks, I can talk all I want to about Baker Mayfield, and I know a lot of people say they want to give him and reward him with a big contract, and I have no problem with that. But this is what I will say about Tampa. Tampa Bay is a ready-made Super Bowl team from still a few years ago. You still have players like Mike Evans. You have Godwin. You have that defense. This team in Tampa is not as bad as people think, especially when you have a guy like Baker Mayfield, who, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of, but I'm going to give him credit. He had a good season. But this is still a very good Tampa roster. For Detroit to do what they've done, you beat the Rams, you beat the Bucks. This is a tough, physical Lions team. If the San Francisco 49ers think they're going to roll at home over this Detroit Lions team, they got nothing coming. This is a physical team. The 49ers are kind of way down. They kind of wind down a little bit. They're not the same 49ers team ever since they went to Philadelphia and won that game by that huge margin, the funeral, as they called it. The Lions are legitimate. The Lions have a tough running game. Aiden Hutchinson, as I said, in the NFL draft 2 years ago, should have been a number one overall pick over Walker. If the Jacksonville Jaguars had Aiden Hutchinson this season, trust me, they're getting into the playoffs. Aiden Hutchinson is that dude. I said it when he was at Michigan, and I'm saying it now. He is that dude. So, for me, when I look at the NFC Championship game, I'm going to give it to the Detroit Lions. And I'm going to give you guys a prediction. I predict that Eminem is going to walk them out to Lose Yourself. I've been saying it all day. I've been saying it all week. If they win the NFC Championship game, I believe they'll walk out with Eminem Lose Yourself in Las Vegas. I think, and again, I'm not an Eminem fan, but I think that's still great for hip hop. I think that's good for the Detroit Lions and for the mindset of those Lions fans. And I said it to say this: the Kansas City Chiefs played the Buffalo Bills. The kick went wide right. Now, Josh Allen did not have a great game. And I know a lot of people say he ran the ball and he did some good things. Here's the problem. And I know some people that have acknowledged this, but I will acknowledge it even more. And I know because I know some people won't like it. The coaching staff did not trust Josh Allen to throw the ball down the field. You know how I know this? I go back to the Dallas game. If you go back to the Dallas game, Buffalo ran the ball down Dallas's throat for almost well over 200 yards. But Josh Allen barely threw the ball. If you look at last week against Pittsburgh was decimated. TJ Watt didn't play. And you look at some other games this year, the running game has started to work. The problem is that coaching staff, I don't feel like they trust Josh Allen to make those downfield throws. Now, did Stephon Diggs drop the ball? Yes, he did. Now, there was a crossing pattern to Stephon Diggs. He didn't throw it to Diggs. He threw it deep. And at that moment, you could tell Josh Allen no longer trusted Stephon Diggs. And when he threw the ball deep to his receiver, it was more of like a deep crossing route. And yes, if you look at the film, the Kansas City Chiefs had men underneath, but all Josh Allen had to do was lift up and put some arc on the ball. Now, I understand there was pressure on him, but Josh Allen was what, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", weighs 250, 255. He has the ability to get that ball off. The Kansas City Chiefs came in with a game plan. They were going to hit him in the mouth. They were going to play physical, just like the Detroit Lions did, and they were going to win the game. Patrick Mahomes, unflappable. Did what Patrick Mahomes does. They are headed back to the AFC Championship game. What is my prediction? People want to ask, what is my prediction for the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs? Let me say this. Patrick Mahomes is going to have one of those Patrick Mahomes games where he comes out and he throws for 300 yards plus. But they're also going to have to incorporate the running game, and not just from Pacheco. They're going to have to get other guys involved. They're going to have to play ball control football, because I feel like the longer you keep Lamar off the field, you could kind of try to discourage this Baltimore Ravens offense, because if you keep them on the field too long and they start getting hot and they start getting opportunistic, they're going to score. These are two very good defenses. And one thing I'll say, folks, is that if this game does turn defensive, I don't want to hear the people talk about, oh, this is boring. No, no, no. This is two very good defenses who have very good players on each side. Um, and we've already talked about the Baltimore defenders. Now, you talk about Chris Jones, you talk about Snead, you talk about a bevy of guys who are just good at attacking the football. And one thing I can respect from the NFL in the Bills game, they let them hit, they let them play football. Please, NFL, in this game between Kansas City and Baltimore, please let them play. Let them hit. Let them hit. Let them hit. Let them hit. Because this game was football personified on Sunday when you saw the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs playing football. There weren't a bunch of calls. There wasn't a bunch of crap. They just were able to play football, and that made the game so much better. Let me get to Tyler Bass for a second. And I said this a little bit last night on Gold Standard Wrestling, presented by Robb Johnson Media and the Legacy Maker Sports Network, pay-per-views and after shows of pay-per-views. Tyler Bass missed a field goal. I get it. But to send death threats this man's way, to threaten him, to say all these different things, what you're going to do to him. First of all, Tyler Bass, and this is to you people on ESPN and all you other folks saying that kickers aren't athletes. Athletes are athletes. I've seen plenty of kickers who are tough, plenty of kickers on a high school level who hit, who tackle, go to college, they hit, they tackle. These are still athletes. These guys will still knock you out. So don't get it twisted. Yeah, they're a kicker, but a lot of kickers are jacked too. A lot of kickers still got to run down the field on kickoffs and punters and punt returns, stuff like that. They got to run down the field. So these people are still very athletic. So don't think they're soft. But for people to threaten this person, Tyler Bass, because he missed a field goal in a game, listen, if Buffalo had just handled their business, they wouldn't have to worry about it. Secondly, if the Chiefs hadn't screwed up on that reverse play and the ball hadn't gone out of bounds, the Chiefs would have been up by 14 anyway. They would have been up by 2 touchdowns anyway. So, there was a pressurized moment. The game would have been tied. Patrick Mahomes still had time to go down the field, so don't forget that Patrick Mahomes was shredding you all day on defense. The Buffalo Bills defensive woes finally came up to catch him in the butt. And it is what it is, right? Buffalo played a great game. I think the cap number for Josh Allen is like $59 million going into next year. There are a few teams that have a huge cap number. So the bottom line is that you lost. And Kansas City, this was their best time to beat Kansas City. Kansas City is going to get stronger. Kansas City is going to get better receivers. And Kansas City is going to do what needs to be done to become a better football team. So I feel like this was their opportunity. Will Buffalo have other opportunities? Yes, they will. However, it is what it is. Josh Allen is a very good quarterback, but if you look at some of his playoff wins, they are suspect. Let's be honest. Patrick Mahomes, he's beaten the greats. He's lost how many playoff games? 3? One to Tom Brady in the AFC Championship game, Tom Brady in the Super Bowl, and then Joe Burrow by a field goal. Think about that. You got 3 losses. One to Tom Brady because, there were some technicalities that happened in the game. You lose to Tom Brady Super Bowl because you had no offensive line. Literally, Patrick Mahomes was running for his life. He had no offensive lineman. It was even worse than the Bengals when they went to Buffalo last year. And then you lose to Joe Burrow, which Joe Burrow, when he's healthy and he's there, he just lost his offensive coordinator, which could mean something down the road. We'll have to look at that as the season gets closer. Can they replace their offensive line coach, offensive coordinator who went to the Tennessee Titans to become the head coach today? But we'll see. You lose to those quarterbacks. That shows me you're still a great quarterback. So, let's see here. Watching from Cedar Hills, Texas. Glad the Cowboys are out of the playoffs because Jordan Love made Dak look like a rookie out there, and I'm glad the Packers are out. Okay. Well, hey, as long as you're watching, that's all that counts. I have no personal opinions. Everybody knows I was a longtime Cowboys fan, but hey, it doesn't bother me any bit because I want people to tune into the show. If you win, I'll talk good about you. If you lose, I'll talk bad about you. I'll talk bad about Dallas. I'll talk bad about you if you lose. So I really have no chips in the game. I'm just out here. As long as you guys are liking, subscribing, and telling people about the Rob Johnson Sports Show, that's all I care about. I have no dog in the fight. Question: who do you want to see in the Super Bowl? About David Burns. All right, David. So this is not about who I want to see. This is who I think will be in the Super Bowl because um, if you really, it's hard because a lot of times you want to see the Ravens and 49ers rematch, but I think that Ravens Lions is a good matchup. And I think this is a good matchup for one good reason because the Lions, if you look back at their last game when they played the Ravens, if you go all the way back to October 22nd, the Ravens beat them 36. I think this time that game turns itself around. Plus, you got to remember the Lions. I believe the Lions had some injuries in that game as well. So Lamar Jackson had 357, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. This is a lot better Lions team than it was on October 22nd. I believe that the Detroit Lions are one of those teams that we're going to look back on in 5 or 10 years and say, "Dag, man, that was a good football team." And there's something about Dan Campbell, the Dan Campbell factor. I want to see that in the Super Bowl. I want to see that risk taking. I want to see Dan Campbell going for it, but going for a 2 point conversion late in the game when they're down by one. It's something about Dan Campbell that I really, really like. Yes, I do want to see Ravens and 49ers in Super Bowl, Ravens and Lions. Yeah. And I'm not saying that the 49ers are not going to get there, but I'm concerned about the 49ers. First of all, when you have a Debo Samuel injury, Debo is more of the heart and soul of that team that people talk about, right? You worry about Trent Williams because Trent Williams is the heart and soul of the offensive line. But I will say, and I doubt very seriously if they're going to put Aid Hutchinson on Trent Williams. But that defensive line is very good. Not a lot of household names for the Detroit Lions, but there's a lot of good players. And I'll be very honest with you, and this is a little bit of a selfish thing. The way that Jared Goff was kind of cast off, it kind of bothers me because he was blamed so much for what happened in LA, right? And they said that, Jared Goff is not the man anymore, and he's not the reason why the Rams got to the Super Bowl. Well, if you guys remember, he did have one of the most epic duels of all time against Patrick Mahomes. Do not forget that Jared Goff went toe to toe and beat Patrick Mahomes on what is considered one of the greatest Monday Night Football games of all time. McVay and the crew wanted Goff out because they didn't think he was the man. No, no, no. McVay got out coached. McVay got out coached by Bill Belichick. That's what happened. Don't blame Jared Goff. That was a great defensive game in that Super Bowl between the Patriots and the Rams. I know people hate it because it's all defense. We hate defense, yada, yada. Jared Goff was not beating Bill Belichick that night. Belichick was on a mission. The Patriots were on a mission. They were winning that Super Bowl. They were going to win that Super Bowl. But like I said, folks, you look at Jared Goff's season. I mean, look at these numbers, right? Look at this. 4,575 yards, 30 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Yes, he had 12 interceptions. Okay. Josh Allen had more interceptions. Okay. He had more, turnovers, etc. But to come to Detroit, a team that had only won 2 playoff games since 1957. The last time they were in an NFC Championship game, you go back to 1991, 92 when they went to Washington. Now, when you look back at that game, they got blown out in that game against Washington. That was a very good Washington team. That was the last time Washington was in a conference championship game. That was the last time Washington won a Super Bowl back in the early 90s. This is going to be different, in my opinion. This team, they're not just relying on Barry Sanders. That team, all they had was Barry Sanders. All they had was a few good receivers. I believe Herman Moore was in the league at that time. Because Herman Moore, another really, really good player that the Detroit Lions had during that time. I can actually check for you guys real quick if you give me a quick second. Herman Moore out of the University of Virginia, one of my favorite all-time receivers. Herman Moore. Let me check for you really quick. His career ended in 2002. Let me check. He went to the Detroit Lions in 91 and 01. He was there from 01 to 2001. So, yes, he was involved in that NFC Championship game. Herman Moore, one of the names that we don't talk about. We don't talk about Herman Moore enough as one of the great all-time receivers. In fact, he's one of – I know a lot of people hate me for this. I actually like Herman more than I like Calvin Johnson. And that's no offense to Calvin Johnson. Calvin Johnson's a great player. But let's keep it real, folks. Calvin Johnson had Matthew Stafford. Who the hell did Herman Moore have? And this team had some really good success back in those days. So Washington put a clinic that year against the Lions. Numbers don't lie. Exactly. Exactly, David Burns. Numbers don't lie. So all I'm saying is that this Lions team is not just relying on Barry Sanders. This team is not just relying on a Herman Moore. This team is legitimate. This team has a bunch of dogs. This team has a bunch of players who are legit. Now let's talk. Now here's the thing. Let's talk about Amon St. Brown. And I know a lot of people like to talk about CeeDee Lamb. Yes, I'm a Cowboys fan. But guess what? I keep it honest. I keep it real with you guys because most people who are in the media, who grew up as fans of teams, they're not going to keep it real with you. But if you look at a guy like Amon St. Brown, look at this: 119 receptions, 1,515 yards, 10 touchdowns. That's legit. Sam Laporta, if he had not had the injury issues, he had some little small injury issues during the season. He's a rookie. 86 catches, 889 yards, 10 touchdowns. Gibbs, 52 catches, 316 yards. Reynolds, 40 catches, 608. This team, now let's go to the rushing numbers really quick. Montgomery had over 1,000. Gibbs had nearly 1,000 with 945. So this Detroit Lions team has weapons. This Detroit Lions team is legitimate. I mean, very legitimate. And if you don't take them seriously going into this weekend, that's the issue that you're going to have. Now, I talked about Aiden Hutchinson, right? Let's look at his stats. Um, he had 11 and a half sacks on the season. And again, we talk about guys like Micah Parsons, right? But when a guy like Aiden Hutchinson, he is ferocious. He does not quit on plays. I'm not saying Micah quits on plays. I'm just saying that when it comes to San Francisco never felt Micah Parsons. They're going to feel Aiden Hutchinson this Sunday. Trust me, they are going to feel. And David Burns says, to be honest, I slept on Herman Moore and I didn't even know he was that good. Yes, sir. And Laporta can catch. He does get open. Yes, sir. Thank you for the comments, Mr. David Burns. But Aiden Hutchinson is going to bring it all day. Aiden Hutchinson is going to put pressure on that San Francisco 49ers line. Oh, hell is coming to San Francisco. So my Super Bowl prediction is Ravens, Lions. And once we get close to the Super Bowl, I'll give you my prediction at that point. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Robb Johnson Media on Facebook, and make sure you subscribe to Robb Johnson Media on YouTube. And the biggest thing is make sure you subscribe to Legacy Maker Sports Network. Here we go right here. If I get my brand name right here, as you can see, I can't even see what I'm doing. Here we go. Here we go. I'm on camera. I can't even see. Legacy Maker Sports Network. Make sure you subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, and do the same for Robb Johnson Media. This has been a Robb Johnson Sports Show, episode 36. I'm glad you guys tuned in. I will be back with you all. I would say I'm hoping to do Ram Talk Friday night. So hopefully we'll be doing some Ram Talk Friday night. And the Robb Johnson Sports Show and Legacy Maker Sports Network presents Gold Standard Wrestling on Saturday night after the Royal Rumble. So Ram Talk is coming then. On Friday night, Ram Talk. Gold Standard Wrestling is coming on Saturday night. And then Sunday night, you can catch me as I talk about the NFC and AFC Championship games. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for the Robb Johnson Sports Show. Please make sure that you guys, again, share, like, subscribe, get those numbers up because I care about sports. I care about doing sports in a fair, unbiased way. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you guys on Friday night for Ram Talk. You all have a great day.